Welcome to Knights of the Round Table. I'm Luca and this is TJ. For
Hello.
tonight's edition, we're reviewing a movie by the Coen Brothers called Ballad of Buster Scruggs.
Ballad of Buster Scruggs is an anthology of various stories that take place in the Midwest slash the West.
Thank you, TJ.
All right. Should we just start with the Coen Brothers?
Yeah, we can talk about them.
Yeah, like I've seen a few of their films, but I haven't really delved into them as other directors. Have you?
I have, yes. My favorite film by Coen Brothers is Big Lebowski. It's about like a guy who
It's about
a guy who is like going broke, and he owes some money to these nihilist people, and he ends up fighting them with his friend, who is a former
With
Marine.
all due respect, no. Like the nihilists think that he has the money from the rich man, who is trying to get his girlfriend back. He doesn't know. He doesn't know him directly. As mentioned, I haven't really gone into their films. So in the films I've seen, I quite like them. I like The Big Lebowski, as you mentioned.
Mm-hmm.
Old Country for No Men is pretty good. Whatever Coen Brothers movies have I seen?
Let's see. I've seen one where this guy, this criminal, ends up marrying a woman police officer, and they end up stealing a baby from a rich man.
Mm-hmm. All right. I've heard of that, but I don't recall the name.
I don't remember the name either.
I don't really have much of a favorite when it comes to their films. Mainly because I've watched a good chunk of them. But I think they, from what I've seen, are pretty competent filmmakers.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah, this. Never mind. What? Okay, moving on to Buster Scruggs. Not to give too much away, I think it's a pretty well-made film. We don't seem, especially being a Western anthology. I mean, which are two fairly niche genres. Anthologies aren't really a genre, but the idea still stands. And I found it a very entertaining film.
I like the use of scenery in the film. I like that it takes place in the West, and it gives us like an idea of what it was like back then. And we get a lot of cartoony violence, and it's just so great to me.
Yeah, I didn't really take it too historically. Like, I guess we should just start with the first. I guess we should start talking about the film itself. Starting with the first section.
Yeah.
The title Buster Scruggs, which is probably the most cartoonish of the lot of them by a mile. Except, like, the story itself is following Buster Scruggs, a very what's the word?
Happy-go-lucky,
well-spoken, but also very deadly man, as he just goes around just trying to play poker, basically. which I think it's a very odd short. As mentioned, it's the most cartoonish, but I think it imparts the storybook-ish aspect of the film very well, because I don't like. To me, like you say, you felt it was a good depiction of how it was like in the West, but I don't think, like, I'm not too what's the word, averse to that period of time.
Mm-hmm.
But I am assuming that the Coen Brothers did some research into the period, and there's definitely a few aspects, but I didn't really take it as a historical recreation of the film of the West, and this is for a whole film. I took it as more of from the perspective of a storybook, which is the framing device. All the stories take place within this book, and I think this section of the movie encapsulates that very well. It's very storybook-ish with the set design, as you mentioned. There's a lot of it's like nothing over the top. It's not like, say, Tim Burton, Tim Burton or anything like that, but it still feels kind of cartoonish.
It's meant to be like a fable.
Tad quirky at times. Yeah, I would say some aspects are like a fable. But then you have these visuals and this sort of comforting feel at times. But then you contrast that with the violence, as you mentioned which is also very prevalent in this section, as well as just this sort of cynicism that is throughout the short movie. Like there's this.
Like, what do you mean by cynicism? Like the environment or the characters?
More just the characters and the story. This film does not feel very like for me. What's the word? It didn't really. It wasn't super it wasn't a very hopeful film, not for the majority of it. And there's also a recurring theme of death and greed, which persists through most of it.
I agree. The majority of the stories don't end well.
No, none of them end well. Really, I don't think. The best one is, I forget. I mean, what it's called? It is the All Gold Canyon. All Gold Canyon is probably the only one that arguably ends well, and even that is cynical in other ways. We'll get to that later. As for now, I thought this was I think this is a pretty good start. The film does not. There's elements of greed. And brutality, which show their head over and over again, which you can also see in as you mentioned earlier. There's a few of the stories really end well, except for the Gold Gulch except for Gold Gulch Canyon. Is that the right term?
Gold Canyon.
Except for Gold Canyon. But
all Gold Canyon.
All Gold Canyon, but you get the idea. It's not that also has its own cynicism, and you can also see that here with the contrasting between this cartoonish man and the horrible violence he causes.
So what I like about Buster Scruggs is that it has an overall lesson told at the end. You cannot be the Top Gun forever. Like, there's always going to be someone better than you.
I think that's not really. I think that's more. I think that could be a fable. I know some of these are based on actual stories, like the Coen.
They're based on actual periods, but I think
I also think that fulfills the idea throughout the film of please edit this out. There's an element of throughout the film about the old and the new, and just how things are progressing.
Mm-hmm.
Part of that's just the setting, Old West. A theme throughout Western media is the elements of change. Although I don't think that is as strong. I don't think that is as strong an element throughout the film, but I would say it's there.
Okay. Ready to move on to the next one?
Yeah, okay. Yes.
Our next one is Near Algodones, which is about a robber who attempts to steal money from a bank, but ends up getting knocked out by the bank owner, and he has to escape on his execution trial.
Everything goes horribly wrong for him, basically.
Yeah.
I'm gonna be honest. I think this one might be my least favorite of the bunch. I do think it has a strong beginning, but it kind of just peters off at the end for me.
Yeah.
It's all good, but it doesn't have the same zing or kick as he ever felt other sections.
He's got serious bad luck.
Yeah, I think going back to the beginning, I quite like the painter, that whole action scene.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, it was very, again, going back to comedy, I found it very comedic. I don't know who played the old man, but he did a really good job at it. Yeah. So I thought, and then there's James Franco, who, he does he does all right here, but he doesn't really add much to it. If that makes any sense?
Yeah, he has a good Western accent, but that's pretty much all he adds.
Yeah, it doesn't. He doesn't really work for me in this film. Also, I also like when he's caught after the old man knocks him out, and they're about to hang him. I also like how his executioners act and the comical nature of them asking for his horse. I thought that was funny. But afterwards, but after that point, it just kind of peters. This is where it peters out for me, at least. Like, some Native Americans attack them. But spare the cowboy, is his name. And then, well, gets rescued. To put it simply, he gets rescued by somebody else. Then he's captured again. And then he's executed after seeing a pretty lady.
Oh yeah, according to Wikipedia, the guy who created him was actually tricking him into getting captured again.
Potentially. But in either case, he doesn't. In either case, doesn't really work for me. You?
I like the elements of comedy used, but the story overall doesn't really work. There's one scene at the end where we see a girl in a blue dress, and she stands out from the crowd. I think it's a good use of mise en scène.
All right, why would you say it would be a good use of mise en scène in particular, not costume design or set design?
Well, mise en scène is like overall elements of environment. Like, it can be imagery, it can be emotion, and what else? It can be like personalities.
All right.
Like she seems interested in the guy being hanged.
I didn't really get that aspect. I think that was more just from his perspective and seeing someone who's really lovely, and him just taking her in before he dies.
Like she seems like she's different from everyone else in the town.
Yeah, and part of that is just visually to show the audience this is who he's focusing on.
I would say it's mostly how James Franco sees her.
Yes, I would agree.
Yeah.
And then he gets hanged.
Uh-huh.
I do like the use of sound design. Like at the beginning of the short, there's a well, and we hear the swinging of the bucket, and then at the end we also hear the swinging of, well, you know. But so that was a good way to end it.
Like he seems so fascinated in this girl, and then they just hang him all of a sudden.
I think. You have any emotions on that?
I don't really have any emotions for it, but the color sticks out. She's the only one wearing blue.
All right. You want to go on to the next one?
Yes. Our next story is Meal Ticket, with Liam Neeson and the guy who plays Dudley from the Harry Potter series.
Really, Dudley?
Yeah, it's the actor of Dudley.
All right. And this story is about a carnival barker played by Liam Neeson, who has a person without arms or legs who knows various works of literature, including Ozymandias, the Cain and Abel, and the Constitution, among others that we hear about. And it's basically about their relationship and how that progresses throughout until the end.
What are your thoughts on it?
Yeah, this one I like a bit better. You?
I like it too. Yeah, I like how poetic the limbless man is. Oh, the one thing that annoys me is the ending.
Is it?
Like, Liam.
Oh yeah. Go on.
Liam Neeson's character seems to really care for him, and then after he sees this chicken doing math, he decides to throw the limbless man into a lake just so he can start a new business with the chicken.
Well, it's a river, but I think they established quite well how Liam Neeson comes to hold contempt for the man. I don't think they portray him throwing him villainous man into the river as good, but I think they show why he doesn't like them. Like first of all, the film is very cold. A lot of it takes place at winter.
Uh-huh.
But not only that, the film also, this section feels very, very, what's the word? Claustrophobic and a bit, what's the word? In your personal space. Like, there's a lot of times when there's a lot of looking into the camera. There's usually
But to show the limbless man's expressions, like what he thinks of his the guy who's carrying him around.
True,
he's sad, he's concerned, he's worried, he's feeling all these emotions.
But it also makes it feel like it's invading your personal space at times, especially when he goes to the brothel. That we just have this kind of uncomfortable scene. It's just.
Oh yeah.
We also have the montage where we just hear him go over like the limbless man talk over and over again. We can kind of see how Liam Neeson is sort of getting sick of him, as well as the limbless man not taking in the profits as he used to.
Well, it's to imply how long he's talking for.
No, because they repeat certain messages over and over again. It's not just the show that he's talking for a long time. He's showing that he's saying the same things over and over again.
I know, but the first story he told, it was shown as a montage, and we get cross-dissolved transitions to show how long he was telling the story for. He's telling in the same area, so we know it's the first story he's talking about.
No, they're moving around. That's why they have the wagon for. Besides, they wanted to show how long. Besides, I don't think that's what they were going for by showing that montage near the middle. If they wanted to show he was talking a long time, they wouldn't repeat the same thing. They would just do something similar, and they wouldn't just have him say the same sound bits we heard at the beginning. If I may comment on Liam Neeson, who unlike what's his name from the second short.
James Franco.
Who unlike James Franco actually does a really good job in this film. Honestly, I couldn't tell it was him until halfway through the film. In part, that's just the makeup department and the fact that it doesn't talk too much. But still, like even when we see him up close near the beginning, it doesn't. I couldn't tell it was him. Also, Dudley's actor, he also does a great job. Even especially for a person who can only use, obviously the face is very expressive, but still that is a limitation put on you, being unable to use your arms or legs. But he does a really good job in his subtle complexions. I also like the scene, the last scene we see him before, where he comes across as a little desperate compared to his first performance. And
oh yeah, because there isn't many people.
And also they're showing how Liam Neeson is getting discontented with him, and I would agree that is a very dark and depressing ending. But it all in part that goes into the theme of greed.
Yeah, to make it worse, Liam Neeson is getting more money than him.
They don't really. I'm assuming he shared. Yeah. Assuming I think he gets his payment through food, which is terrible, but the idea is still the same.
Like he's stealing from his ration of money.
I don't think Liam Neeson directly pays him at any point. He takes care. I think he's. Get the idea. Do you have anything to say about this short? Anything else?
I just say the ending makes it very, very depressing. Moving on to the fourth short of the movie, All Gold Canyon. So it's about this old prospector who goes digging for gold by a river, and he is successful, but he gets confronted by this younger man with a gun who had been following him the entire time, and he shoots him in the back, but he doesn't die, so he is able to take the gun from the younger guy and kill him with it, and then he leaves with gold.
What'd you think of the short?
It is very funny, upbeat, and very jolly.
Yeah.
Like, mostly the old man, but I think the short is pretty jolly on its own.
Yeah, I would agree. I think this film, like this short, really contrasts the previous short, where the last one is very cold and a bit cramped. This one feels a lot more widespread and warm, and as you said, jovial, especially with all the wide shots of nature and the natural environment. It's also has arguably one of the best endings, which isn't saying much, but it's saying something.
Well, it's not like a lesson or anything, but it just like a happy ending.
But I mentioned how this short is still has a bit of cynicism to it, which I think that comes through the man and also just the younger man and their relationship and how they're compared with nature because to me, like all of their doings, like him just ripping through the earth and going and doing all of this, it feels like he's just something small but insignificant, but still destructive, and in comparison to the natural world, which he's in part destroying, like through his digging. Like he's just really nothing. Like all of his violence is just.
He's a prospector. He's got to get gold somehow.
Yes, but it doesn't show. Yes, but the film doesn't show it as being particularly good, or even just high and mighty. Like near the beginning, they show a lot of the landscape, which plays a big part. Which plays a big part in this film. But they also use CGI animals, which is a bit janky. They worked fine though. Like they just show that things are there, and they do use the real animal in the case of the owl throughout. But still, that just felt a bit artificial and compared to the rest of the film, a little cheap. Doesn't ruin the short. But that's just something that got my attention.
The owl was just put in to watch over the forest.
Again,
it sees everything that's going on.
Also, speaking of which, I do like the little moment where he's taking eggs from the owl, and he does feel a little regret. I mean, still takes an egg, but still, he has some humanity in him.
Mm-hmm. I think he's an okay person. Like he's not too evil. Also, you say they slip in some cynicism. Like the clearest examples of cynicism I could find is when he says, "Oh, I'm an old man. I'm losing my strength."
I think that's not really what I. I think they're just
he says things that are kind of self-deprecating.
Well, that's not really being cynical. That's not what I mean. I mean more in the way that his struggles being shown in comparison to the rest of the world. He just feels and also just the conflict that he has with the younger man, and all this violence over a shiny rock. The fight scene does feel brutal. I don't think it's the most brutal. Scene in the movie, but I think it's not. Let me refrain. It's not gory, but it does feel brutish. Like they're squirming in the dirt. Like he's just using blunt instruments. Like they're both shooting a gun, but it's just they're not doing it with any grace.
Mm-hmm.
and then it just just feels a bit nasty, but not tonally, but like how they fight. It's not glorified.
Anything else?
Beyond this being probably one of my favorites of the film. No, you?
My favorite is the Ballad of Buster Scruggs.
All right.
I like how happy the cowboy is, and I like how fast he is with the guns. He's a funny character.
Best cowboy character since Bobbly Wobbly from the Oogie Loves. We need to watch that movie someday. Anyways, next section, whatever you want to call it.
Mm-hmm. It is The Gal Who Got Rattled. I personally think this is a good story. It follows a girl and her brother who make a deal with a guy for land, and in order for them to claim the land, she has to marry the boy.
So I believe I actually looked this up earlier because I'm terrible at his name, as you know, and I think her character is called Alice Long, and is the man she falls in love with called Knapp? Billy?
Yeah, Billy Knapp.
Anyway, so basically, and as Lucas said, like she and her brother go out west to Oregon, then her brother dies, and the story just follows her as she goes on her journey through Oregon and falls in love with Billy Knapp.
They make the death so sudden. Like, he appears perfectly fine the day before his death, and then, bam, he's dead.
Yeah, the brutality.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Having said that, I would say this is tonally, one of the most lighthearted, or at least hopeful shorts. And just, I found it.
Yes, but not lighthearted.
Well, relatively compared to the rest of the films. Maybe lighthearted is not the right term. I found it the least cynical, like with the romance between Billy and Alice.
Mm-hmm.
And I did get that later, but whatever. I found the romance quite sweet. You?
Me too. Yeah. Yeah, it's fun to see the romantic tension build up between them.
There's also a cute dog, which I quite liked. There's also a cute little dog.
Like Billy and Alice often have friendly conversations, but Matt doesn't show any affection whatsoever.
No, he does. Like, maybe not affection, although he does show kindness in sparing President Pierce.
Well, he just kind of sits with Alice and eats with her. They don't really talk.
And that's the whole reason that she's coming over. She's talking to him, mostly about the boy who's helping her, who her brother wants to pay off $400, correct?
Yes,
money
$400.
Yeah, money which she doesn't have.
Yeah, but she's clearly more interested in Billy Knapp.
Yeah.
Also, Billy Knapp promises to pay off the debt if she marries him.
She doesn't even know the guy in Oregon. Like, I think she's just being with her brother, who she basically badmouths throughout the film. Like, from what we hear of him, we don't see too much of him. He doesn't seem like the best human being.
Yeah, he isn't a good businessman. From the sounds of it, he's never had a successful deal or whatever.
Well, that's literally what she says.
Mm-hmm.
There's also an element of that seems to be an element of uncertainty throughout this section. Like, you're not certain. Like Kate is not. Is Kate? Is that her name?
Alice.
Alice is uncertain of what she's gonna do. We don't know what's going on with the dog most of the time. We don't know what's going on with the boy. And there's a large element of uncertainty, especially which is actually what they talk about when Billy proposes to Alice. I think it's a day after.
Mm-hmm.
Anyways, this romance, which is shown throughout in the main focus of the short, ends in a very tragic way, where after Alice finds her dog, like she's caught in a skirmish between a bunch of Native Americans and what's the old man's name?
He's like the leader of the crew, leader of the pioneers. I don't know his name.
Yeah, like he's the one that headed the train. But basically, there's a skirmish, which I think might be the most brutal which I think might be the most brutal scene in the film, and after she assumes that he gets killed by Native American after being clopped in the head, like she shoots herself, which although a sad ending, I thought it was not a fitting ending, but I found a fitting ending, for lack of a better term. Like it felt like a tragedy to me.
I mean, it's the theme of cynicism.
Well, it's not really that bit's not. Maybe. Yeah. I think. I thought. Well, yeah. I'd probably say that. Also, we also don't see Billy's reaction to the whole thing. The final scene of it.
Yeah, well, the book says like the leader of the pioneers, whatever his name is, he has no idea what he's going to tell Billy Knapp.
Okay, sorry folks, we have technical difficulties.
Yeah, apologize.
And so the final one, Mortal Remains.
Mm-hmm.
Mortal Remains is a short about three people: a fur trapper, a woman from the city, and a French. I think he
Frenchman.
Yeah, the Frenchman. I think he worked in a casino. It's something with gambling, if I remember. Are in a carriage with two other men, and later on and it's basically just them interacting as they go to Fort Sundry.
Okay. What are your thoughts on that story?
I quite like this one. I think All Gold Canyon, the second to last one, like what's that called? A gale something?
The gal got rattled.
The gal got rattled. And this one might be my three favorites of the film. This one is definitely, although it's not as fantastical as Buster Scruggs short, it's definitely it's definitely more fantastical because, and this is a little spoiler, it's revealed that we've been spoiling this whole movie, but Fort Sundry is revealed to be the gateway to heaven / the underworld and judgments. It's the gateway to judgments. That's what it's. It's also one of the most humorous shorts. Like direct, yeah. Like although I would say it's funniest, but what I mean by that is that it's the most focused within humor, and just the interactions between these three different people, which I find quite. It's a very charming. I really enjoyed this short. It's funny. It gets a little tense. There's a good, and it's just very entertaining and a good way to end the film. What's your thoughts on that?
I find it quite eerie.
Yeah.
Because we get the guy driving the carriage. We never figure out who he is, and we have these two men who specify themselves as bounty hunters.
Oh, they say Grim Reapers at first.
Yeah,
Reaper.
But same thing. We never find out what they're gonna do to the three people in the hotel. Like, we're worried they're gonna die or something.
I know. Like, with all due respect, Luca, from what I see, they've already died. That's why the two people in the carriage specified themselves as Reaper. In the gate in the hotel.
You mean they're going to die?
No, they're dead. Like they're being brought to judgment. Hence, you can even see this on the gate of the hotel. There's an angel and the devil, heaven and hell, and at the top of the stairs, there's a bright light.
Okay. I just thought the light was there for scenery.
That doesn't really make a lot. Still, that wouldn't make a lot of sense as scenery. Like, that's these films, although quite like nothing else in that. When it comes to set design and scenery, nothing else in that film has been so. What's the word? Like character. So extreme would be the right term, or cartoonish. Like it's story. What?
Like they want to make the hotel look scary and like deadly.
That would not make much sense with the rest of the film. Like that, not although the film has a very storybooky feel with its set design and what it set, well, basically set design and just cinematography. It never feels unrealistic or characterized, for lack of a better term. It does not really make much sense to me. There's also that, anyways. Going on with the rest of the cinematography. I do like how the lighting in this section is, like when they're going in the carriage, it's sunset, and we get this shift in color from the more warmer shades to as the tone gets more dire, and as at least I see it, they're being brought to the underworld and they're realizing their situation essentially.
Yeah.
It just gets more and more darker because it's getting night. It's simple, but it works very well.
Well, I saw the ending as them walking into their own deaths.
And what would be your evidence for this?
Like they're too scared. They're too scared to go into the hotel, and we get the two bounty hunters or reapers carrying a corpse inside.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Yeah.
They're dragging it up to the light.
Uh-huh.
I mentioned I was humorous, which it's actually mentioned I was humorous, and as not place to cut this out. There's not much to say in that section. It's also there isn't much performances. Performances are also pretty well done, very well done. The performance is very well done in short, especially. Don't have much else to say about this section. You?
I mean, it is humorous, but it's a very creepy way to end the movie.
Yeah. Although it does invoke the imagery of death, which is mentioned throughout the film, and actually it's also a good reflection of the first short, which is super light and cartoony, and which is contrasted with the darkness of this one, still as it being a sunset. So overall, pretty good short. I like the ending of it. It's a good way to end this film.
Yeah, I have to say my top favorite two are Buster Scruggs and All Gold Canyon, mainly because they're less cynical from the rest.
Yeah, I quite like Gold Canyon. Yeah, I mentioned how I'm gonna restate myself. I think Gold Canyon, the Gold Canyon, the gal who I keep on forgetting. The gal who got rattled, and more. And what is the last one? Names are terrible.
The Mortal Remains.
And The Mortal Remains are probably my three favorite shorts. I do like their. I think they have They just have. I find them most engaging, and both of them have And I think, at least with both Gold Canyon and Mortal Remains having the best atmosphere out of all of them. And also just found the gal who got what's it called?
The gal got rattled.
I also found the gal who got rattled to have probably the most probably the most charming and engaging story of the lot. Overall, I think this film is great. Great. If I would give it a rating, would probably be 8 out. It'd probably be 8 out of 10.
I give it a 8.5.
What's 0.5 for?
Because it's just a good film overall.
Right.
I like how it incorporates mise-en-scène and emotion. Most of the stories are cynical, as we mentioned earlier, and they all have interesting stories.
Yeah. All right. That's what other. All right. So thank you for having me, Luca. Sorry about the difficulties earlier.
No problem, TJ.
All right. And next week we should in the spirit of reviewing popular films, we should review Animal Crackers, the movie.
Okay, here to see it.
That or Stalkers from Tarkovsky. That one's 3 hours long.
You want me to pick one, or?
Yeah, you want to pick one?
Think I'd rather go with Animal Crackers.
Oh, why is that?
Because the other one you said was 3 hours. I don't want to watch a long movie.
Yes. Oh, great! Now you don't want to watch a long movie. Oh, thanks for having me.
Like a 3 hour one.
What?
Like a 3 hour one. I don't want to watch a 3 hour movie.
Yes. Okay. Thank you for having me, Luca. And I hope you have a good day.
All right. You too.
Bye.
Thank you, TJ.